This is a Geek Leader podcast, and I'm your host, John Rauda. This show is all about helping us grow as leaders, become better technologists, and improve our lives both at work and at home. I hope you enjoy the show and learn a lot. Hello, world, and welcome to a Geek Leader podcast. I'm your host, John Rauda. Today's sponsor is A2 Hosting. I've been using A2 Hosting solid-state hosting solutions for our website at geekleader.com for many years now, and absolutely love their support, their service, and all the features that you get. You get access to cPanel. You get all of the things that you can imagine for a great WordPress experience, including their A2 optimized WordPress, which does extra security checks, extra lockdown. You can lock down your editor file so you can't edit anything inside there. You get alerts whenever there are file changes that are done. You can also do automatic updates, backups, and more with A2 Hosting. So highly recommend it. Go to geekleader.com/A2 to get more information and to sign up for their solid-state, turbocharged speed hosting today. Again, that's at geekleader.com/A2. All right, Geek Leaders, today I am honored to have Andrew Cohen on the show. He was the managing partner and CEO of EVOKE, and now the managing director of Netsurit. And we're going to talk about automation, AI, and some of the cool things that are happening out there with, everybody's talking about ChatGPT right now, and Microsoft just announced their Copilot integration with Microsoft 365. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we've got a lot to get into. So with all that being said, Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Man, I am really excited to get into this. But before we get there, if you don't mind, just tell the audience a little bit about your background and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Okay, great. I appreciate it. So a little bit about the background from a business side of view. I'm from North Carolina originally, but I moved to New York about in 94, 95, I think, and I started my own business. And eventually we rebranded as EVOKE in 2005. So from going from a design agency into technology, from rich media now to enterprise technology, digital transformation work over the course of those years, we were able to build a real practice that was not just a local presence in the U.S., but global presence as well. So we focus anywhere from SMB space all the way to enterprise clients, and some of these enterprise clients have been with us for over a decade. And at the course of the career, as EVOKE, we were able to decide, do we want to keep going it alone or look at it being part of a larger organization? Because I got it up to about 40 or 50 people. And then at the end of 2021, we decided to merge and get acquired by a company called Netsurit. And Netsurit, they focus on traditional MSP space, cybersecurity, the real foundational work. And the EVOKE team now has formed what we call Netsurit Automate, which is the innovation partner, the innovation team at Netsurit. So when we go to clients, they might speak to them on the foundational things, but we'll come into the opportunity and talk to what their needs are for leveraging their technology investment, how to best improve business processes by using automation, and then creating what we call these digital transformation modern workplaces as well. So it's been a long time getting here, but in terms of where we came from, where we are, it's a really exciting time.
So the innovation that's been coming along with technology has been quite amazing over the past few years. You hear all these people going through digital transformations where they're automating pieces of whether it be software or tools, and even my company, where when I started here, we had a lot of paper forms that went around, and just automating that with simple, workflows. And that's obviously a very small step when it comes to actually what you can do with automation, but it's one of the first steps that companies get into. What are some of the more advanced things that you're doing with your clients when it comes to improving things and innovating with different tools that are out there?
No, that's a very good question. How we engage in terms of this is we really initially have to do an ideation workshop together. So we'll get together, whether it's in person or online, and do a workshop understanding all the use cases potentially that live in an organization that are either manual processes or bad way of doing business or not fully utilizing their technology investment. So we'll chart all those together with the customers, and then define what's the feasibility and the value, the enterprise value is to the business for delivering those solutions. So some could be quick wins, which we call low code or no code solutions. And some are more pro code, where we're building a bigger like Power App kind of solutions that have automation connecting to multiple disparate systems. So it really varies, and it all depends on what the need is. We vote on those together, prioritize that with the customers. And then as we start delivering, we start measuring what we call the return on innovation on all those solutions as well. So something that might be a simple get for like 2 to 3 weeks of effort could have a really large impact on the business in terms of profitability or just a better process improvement from internal and external users. So we look at those, and it all depends in terms of what the need case is. some of the larger scale ones you asked about, they might be a massive workflow that's tapping into like multiple third-party systems like SAP, two-way communication, and we'll build out a solution that could take 6 to 7 months. But it calculates it has such risk for the business if they don't do it, if they continue on the current path. You're talking about a real liability potential in those kind of scenarios.
Yeah, for sure. And what I've seen with a lot of the low-code solutions are using tools that people already have that they might not be aware of, such as, with Microsoft 365, maybe they have Power Automate or Power Apps and things like that where they can integrate. Have you guys been working a lot with that?
Yes, we're really heavy in the Microsoft stack. So there's a couple areas we focus on in the Innovate team. Obviously, if someone's in Microsoft 365 space, they're a really great candidate to work with us because we really leverage that technology investment. And we see in most organizations, whether large or small, they're not fully utilizing that investment in terms of what they could possibly do, whether it's with resources like ours or even doing it themselves. So if one area that we jump right in on is what we call the user adoption, and just really help companies understand what they have, what they can turn on really quickly with really no code or even very simple low code solutions they could build internally. And then as we engage, we start those more difficult use cases that I defined earlier. Those are the ones that we kind of step in and work as their digital automation partner. So we find those opportunities, leveraging, again, what's the Microsoft investment with Power Automate, Power BI, AI with cognitive services or AI with ChatGPT now is coming down the line. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then just building what we call the single site experiences. So we're looking at these areas and understand what the company's needs are, what kind of technology imprint they have, and how do we bring that all together and bring a better user experience internally and then also externally with solutions such as Power Pages in the Microsoft stack. So everything can be kind of integrated. They can eliminate some redundant systems if they fully embrace, unfortunately, the Microsoft world. We're not trying to sell Microsoft all the time, but it is something that allows us to really create excellence and really streamline and improve processes.
Yeah, I hear you. So I'm a Mac guy for sure when it comes to operating systems, but the Microsoft 365 environment, being an IT leader, and I standardized on that. Once I thought Teams was perfected, we could immediately kind of switch from Zoom into Teams and Slack into Teams, and I've kind of standardized on that model because of all the integrations with Power Automate that you can do. I mean, we've got it integrated with Jira, with other tools that we're using.
Yeah. Okay.
And, it seems like there's so much that you can do there to just kind of streamline workflows, whether it be approvals and things like that, that used to take people building out, whether it be a SharePoint workflow or something that took time. Now you can just really quickly do it in Teams. And it's
absolutely awesome. Yeah. It becomes really your launching pad for everything. And where all these applications can be quickly accessed or integrated as you do collaboration and communication internally is really how you stitch it all together. And once you're in that environment, you understand what the Microsoft 365 can do. We can bring all those together, bridge all that. And then it does look at those things like you mentioned before, like the paper process forms, they can quickly get eliminated. And it goes into a nice workflow streamlined process. It creates visibility, accountability, and then you start seeing where everything sits within an organization.
Yeah. And I love that accountability package. You can go back through and see it kind of like, oh, hey, this was sitting on your inbox for 14 days. You didn't approve it. What's going on?
Exactly. And we'll even say, why even put it in your inbox? It'll be like try to see, can we bring everything to a Power App that kind of creates that accountability, those gates, those workflows. So the only time it goes in the inbox is just sending a trigger alert to that potential user. So the goal is, can they leverage their investment, get things out of email, move it into a highly visible, accountable environment. And that creates that kind of ongoing workflow enablement across an organization.
Yeah, especially with Teams, because you can do it on your phone. So you'd be walking around and get a Teams notification that, hey, there's a new approval for you to approve. You kind of just click through it, boom, boom, done. And not even have to wait for that email to come through.
Well, it's good. Yeah, I mean, you're a Mac guy or an Apple guy, so for you to be converted, that's a big step.
It is a big step.
We have some new clients that are on Google, smaller companies, nonprofits, that they're in the Google stack with all these kind of SaaS products out there. It's all stitched together. And we call them the jackrabbits. Everything's all running around. No one knows how to really innovate effectively. They think they can buy the next tool. And, so we convince them, over a little bit of time and no pressure, but just here's how you could do that in Microsoft. They could consolidate your investment and then you can still get that same effectiveness, but much more cheaper. You have less applications in your technology stack and you can just fully embrace that system and still feel like you can use your Mac. It's not something that prohibits Mac usage at all. It's just something that can allow them to do their work more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been so impressed with all the different tools that come with Microsoft 365 over the past couple of years, whether it be Planner or Teams or Power Automate, and just the ability to be able to kind of seamlessly put everything together. And even from going back to the nonprofit or small business standpoint, the pricing for nonprofit is incredible.
It is.
it's a great value, especially if you're a smaller business. You can go for that small business premium package.
Yep, true. Very true.
Anyway, enough touting Microsoft.
I know. Chat. What are we doing here? We should be selling for Microsoft. Actually, listen to this audio. Give us some credit.
New sponsor here. Come on. So you mentioned ChatGPT, and that's been all over the news. And I have to confess, I've been playing with it almost endlessly for the past month and a half or 2 months or so. And watched the demo with ChatGPT 4. It was pretty remarkable. How are you guys using ChatGPT, and what are some options that you see out there for us tech geeks?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is in the early stages, obviously, in terms of implementation, integration into the Microsoft 365 stack. That's what Copilot and things of that nature are going to allow people just to work more efficiently, how it's going to be incorporated into teams. These are the things that are going to be really turned on as they go. The enterprises will probably get that first, and then it'll kind of trickle down to different levels of businesses and users. But where we're seeing the opportunity with ChatGPT is actually building these applications internally. So what we would consider like a knowledge base that might have been something that was utilized internally for customer experience, or even internal customers in terms of different lines of business, depending on the size of the organization, they can create what we call these smart environments where they can leverage the ChatGPT search to not only search internally, but to external sources of information, probably best visibility, best information at the fingertips for the potential either customer service rep or sales rep or whoever needs to see it in real time. So that an opportunity to quickly scale a solution by leveraging ChatGPT is going to be very exciting. And we're starting already to implement proof of concept pilot ideas for some of our clients.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I use it for very non-automated tasks today, such as we had to write a new policy for acquisition we were going through. So I just went to ChatGPT and said, hey, can you write me a policy? Of course, it's not going to give me the policy, but it gives me a great framework to start with, because sometimes I forget about it. I completely forgot about putting the enforcement section in my policy that I was writing. It's in there. I'm like, oh, duh. And now I need to fill that part out, and go back through it. But it's a really cool tool to kind of, as long as people aren't using it in a way that it's not creating their final product, which is what I thought some people do.
And I think you can try to get away with that, obviously. But I think what the real power of it, I had sometimes you're struggling just to write a proposal, just an executive summary. It can give you some foundational information, just kind of get you steered in the right direction, pull in the right research for quick links to it. I mean, it just, as you query it and keep asking additional questions, keep pushing it, it gets more and more refined. So it does really pull out really the starter block for what you're going to do when you build these kind of documents internally. And, obviously from a coding perspective, the DevOps team, they can get quick access to code snippets and things they want to try and understand. Now, they're not going to cut and paste those and just use it and just run with it, but it will give them that foundational information, maybe if they're stuck on something. So they're not spending hours and maybe days bottleneck. They can find that research in real time. So that's what's so exciting about it from just how we're using it internally. And just, I can see how it can be extended to our clients very easily.
Yeah, for sure. And I've used it, to generate, simple PowerShell scripts or something like that that I wanted to, and obviously you have to test them before you go using them in production. But sometimes you kind of think about what is the logic behind it. I don't know how to write this script to get exactly what I want. I asked ChatGPT, get to say, okay, now I see what they're doing here. Let me modify it some and get it to work in our environment.
Yeah, I was having a discussion with my VP of IT the other day. We were both kind of just clicking around on ChatGPT, and it just humbled me in terms of how quickly it could do something. So I was like, wow, it's smarter than I am and much faster. And, I can't be replaced because someone still has to go out there and speak to it, but it can really help accelerate some of the mundane tasks and things that I would just probably hate doing or even assign to different team members. They can just pull it together much quicker. So yeah, let's use it for what it's best at. And then it's only going to get better too. That's the thing that's amazing. Our whole DevOps team was really concerned about it, but now they've embraced it. They understand it can be a tool to make their lives a lot more efficient and better.
Yeah, I don't see it necessarily replacing our roles at the moment, but I see it enhancing it and changing the way we do it. Because, what it's doing for me right now is I really struggle. I'm one of those people that really struggle creating something new. I can look at something that already exists and tell you all the faults with it and everything that's wrong with it pretty easily, but I can't just sit down and write a document. Like I struggle with that. So if I ask ChatGPT to do the first draft or give me an outline or something like that I can go and flesh out and really make it happen. It helps me become way more productive.
Yeah, you'd be crazy not to use it. I mean, it's something that just is there as a tool, and then how you utilize it, implement it in your daily life. It's not going to replace you, but it's going to allow you to just maybe get to the next thing in your daily task list a little more quicker.
Yeah, and so I watched that Microsoft did a live webinar on LinkedIn. I guess it was last week about Copilot with Microsoft 365 integration and stuff. And it was so cool the way that they were integrating these things, and I could see so many huge time savers, such as summarizing Teams meetings and creating a proposal out of a Teams meeting, which is pretty awesome. What do you see companies doing in the future when it comes to using Copilot and ChatGPT and all these other tools that are out there and kind of integrating them together for their stack?
I think you're kind of really hitting on it greatly in terms of the collaboration component. So not only can the collaboration be more enhanced, but then the insights and outcomes from those meetings, because these large organizations, they have meeting after meeting, and typically in the past, it would be just to set up the next meeting. This can help drive decisions a lot quicker. So all those kind of meeting insights can get quickly culled together by ChatGPT, then aggregated into Power BI dashboard, so they can have visibility to the leadership if they're not attending that meeting, and they can quickly jump into areas of that meeting from the notes and transcripts that ChatGPT pulls together to get the details, and then they can make decisions on the business side much quicker. So something, if a deal ties into sales and where we're kind of lagging in one region, they'll see those insights much quicker and much more available by tapping into all the supporting documentation that's done on the day-to-day and aggregate into common dashboards or leadership dashboards. They can make those business decisions that drive sales and revenue.
Yeah. So you mentioned sales and revenue a little bit, and that's one of the things that I see a lot of this, advancement in automation coming for. How are people using some of the tools that exist today in Microsoft 365 environments or ChatGPT to kind of automate and improve their sales workflows?
Sure. We have a good case study. I use this one a good bit because it's for a large enterprise client. But what happened was, in terms of sales, it was actually on the fulfillment side. They're a big pharmaceutical company. They have about 3,000 plus field reps all across the U.S. And the current way they were handling supply chain issues was one email inbox to central office, home office, and there was one or two full-time employees just doing email triage all day long, just to get back to them in terms of where the availability was, because there's drugs in high demand but low supply, or there were just issues with the supply chain. So they were getting responses to the field in 48 hours at best. You're talking about hundreds of emails flooding an inbox, and then a full-time employee really have to go in there and check third-party systems. So we looked at it, how do we fix this solution? Email can still be the constant, because the field force is not going to change going email, but they would use a native application which would consolidate and put the email in a structured format. Then the AI picked up from that information, automatically sent a response. But in parallel, it was actually checking all the fulfillment sites on the back end for the three big players for fulfillment. And in real time, I was getting a response back to the field rep while they were still at the pharmacy. So something that was taking 48 hours, and I got mitigated down to 3 minutes. Now, visually, there's nothing really in the solutions, all automation happening behind the scenes other than a Power BI dashboard for the actual people that are in the home office still to see all the kind of information, insights, and all the different tickets that are being issued from the field. But all this now that was mitigated to a real-time response versus something that was taking days. So how that turns to profitability, obviously, just dies into demand. There's competitive nature. They're getting things in the field quicker. And the director of that organization said it was the best example of digital transformation they've ever implemented at the company. So to me, it was a simple solution, but it just has such a leverage completely the Microsoft stack and tapped into things that we're doing on a daily basis. ChatGPT doesn't come into the mix on this one at this time, but down the road, we could see how it could be extended and being included.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy to me to think about how you mentioned, to you as a simple solution, but it had, massive ramifications. And, I've been through a couple of digital transformations in my career, and I found like sometimes the most simple solution out there seems to have the biggest effect, long term. And also the best adoption. I think adoption is kind of one of the key things that makes a digital transformation actually work.
No, I agree. And user adoption is so critical to these things. I mean, that's the whole reason we do it. We have one in our team called Return on Innovation Guarantee. So every solution we build, before we even build it, we need to understand the ROI and the impact to the business. And then if it doesn't hit the mark, we have essentially skin in the game that we have to keep working for free for a period of 3 months if we don't hit the mark on that metric. So it's very critical in terms of how we plan these things, not because we're trying to plan always that it's going to be the most successful, easiest thing to do. We want to be the most impactful to the business. So the higher the ROI, the higher return, the more likelihood they're going to come back to us and do other solutions with us. So it's very important. And the only way you can ensure that ROI is full user adoption. So that digital transformation, not allowing it to fail, is very critical for us for keeping that full 360 life cycle of these solutions.
So how do you go about, ensuring that you have that buy-in with, the team? So like, for example, let's say, I'm a, vice president of technology and I want to go through, I see we have a lot of gaps. We have a lot of things that we could, workflow or automate to improve our business processes, but I need to get the whole business on board. How do I go about doing that?
It's a very good question. And sometimes we have to do, there's different scenarios. We have a full ongoing monthly service is how we work in the Innovate team, but we also have been engaged multiple times out of a pilot or proof of concept. So we might get someone who's in that role, that VP role, that hasn't gotten leadership buy-in, but they've met with us. They were probably referred to us by their CEO, their C-suite to talk to us. And then they can't get the full executive buy-in unless they build something. So that first pilot might be something that's like a 1 to 2 month engagement where we just try to understand the environment, to identify some of those use cases I mentioned before, then pick 1 or 2, or probably one that we deliver really efficiently, but show a really high value to the business. And from that, it kind of gets out of executive buy-in immediately, once they show it. Now, that's for companies probably more in the mid-market space or the higher end of an SMB. Smaller companies have a little bit more of an easier probably approach because you're speaking to the C-suite already. So that's the one who has to identify it, implement it, have the sponsorship of these digital transformation programs. So a company of 50 to 100 people are sometimes really great candidates because they want to scale, they want to innovate, but they don't have the capacity. So they can quickly kind of make a decision to work with us. And then once we identify what all these use cases we might try to attack, and then we start delivering them. So it's a different kind of mindset and it depends on the audience we're speaking to.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see how, as a smaller business, getting the C-suite involved early will help drive that adoption down quickly. So yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. So, for example, if I wanted to try to sell this idea and get you guys on board, what would be my first steps?
Well, the first steps, if we're going to engage in terms of what we do, a lot of times I'll just do an initial call. It's similar to this kind of discussion, telling about what we do and how we do it. What's your kind of challenges? What are your pain points in your business? And once we identify that as an opportunity to potentially work together, we would do that ideation session. That's a free workshop that I give and I run for the company. And that's really, I take the role kind of as a digital strategist in that kind of meeting. And that's what we do either, like I said, in person or virtual ideation session. And what I encourage in those meetings is we invite in enough stakeholders from the team that we're potentially engaging with. So at least a couple lines of business or business units are represented at that call. Because something that's needed for HR it obviously differs from what finance needs are. But the whole thing is they kind of do speak to they all have automation. They have manual processes they want to rectify and get rid of. So that's what we do that workshop together. It's an hour or so session. And then post delivery, we deliver a report on that and we define what's the best opportunity to work together. We define the metrics for which is the highest level of value to the business, and we produce that report back. And then that's still without any kind of a full engagement. If there's a desire to go forward, we've kind of identified the tier in terms of the pricing tier we'd want to place that company in, and then we can move into an engagement. And that's really, we start working off that discovery list, those use cases. So the first one gets delivered after engagement. We start measuring that investment, the return on investment against it. And then we go to the next one on the list. And a lot of times we'll kind of reshuffle that deck based on the solution being in place because it might change the priority once something's live because downstream effects could also impact next decision in the use case.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Mm-hmm. So with the, all the news about AI and tools to automate, your life away, as some of them are saying. How have you seen that impact, the other tools that are already there that have been there for a while that you guys have been using for automation and improving workflows?
Yeah, those are the ones that are a little different because we do some work in computer vision and then obviously cognitive services with the AI creating models. Sometimes it's simple things like invoice, like it would be maybe sort of like an OCR type of solution, but it's using the AI capabilities in Azure, and it'll scan. And we created the AI model. It'll take all these different disparate invoices or finance statements, move that data into the next area of the business automatically. So it'll read all thousands of documents and just do that kind of capture and move it into whether it's SharePoint, Power BI, or another reporting system. So these are things that were taking a lot of manual effort in the past where people were doing cut and pasting from invoices into an Excel sheet, then using that Excel to report against. We automate that. And those were based on the existing tools that have lived in the cognitive services stack. And that's one example. Then we look at things, how people are using computer vision for building catalogs more efficiently and how they can actually you leverage that by letting the system understand and quickly visualize what the issue is, then put that issue into a ticket tracking for like someone who's in the aviation or automotive industry. They can quickly move it down the line really quick by letting the AI kind of control that. So it all really just depends on the use case and how we build those models. And those models, once you train them, they pretty much run this efficiently.
Yeah, for sure. I need to explore some of those options a little bit more with us, because I can see so many different items where, we create manual tickets, whether it be for like legal documents that are coming in that have to get approved, whether it's for rights management or something like that, or even simple help desk requests that are coming through that are manually being touched. Maybe we could automate that and put those in different queues automatically. Well, there's a lot of opportunity.
Oh, true. Yeah, and you already identified a couple of use cases. What happens in those, we just kind of review that, understand the current state, because once we understand those work streams that exist, we can see how automation could be utilized. And it's not about replacing personnel. It's about just creating better efficiency so those personnel can now go to better tasks, so that they're dealing with the actual problem, not just doing manual data entry. So it's a really useful kind of way of leveraging that investment, keeping your personnel, making them have a better job experience, as well as the customer experience side gets enhanced as well.
Yeah. So you talk about the better job experience. How do you sell that approach when it comes to better life for employees? Because we all like to do things that are higher level thinking, solving problems, and not that repetitive, mundane stuff. Is that a selling approach that you guys take?
It is. I mean, because we look at these companies and all sizes, it doesn't really matter this one, but they all live in Excel. And Excel's a great product, no question about it. But however, doing data entry, manual information, they're taking hours and hours upon the day just doing manual tasks of cut and pasting from one information to the other. So if you can get rid of that task, it allows them to have their breakout meetings a lot more effectively. So they eliminate half a day of just doing data entry or cut and paste or whatever heck you want to call it. And now their job gets enhanced because they're actually getting to use their brain and look at the information that they're reporting to. So all that data entry now is being moved into dashboards or something that they use for their additional meetings internally. And now they can provide these insights. They can have the time to, we're talking about an engineer level type of personnel that can speak to the information instead of just cutting and pasting information. It's just crazy how these companies are doing it. These spreadsheets that have spreadsheet upon spreadsheet filling each other from information to information. Some of our enterprise accounts still do this. They might have 13 spreadsheets for one workflow. And by moving this into a Power App, they're able to or into Power BI, Power App, a whole solution automating this. They've reduced all that churn, and they got rid of all that redundancy and a chance for risk and errors, and allow those employees just to focus on doing their job better. So it creates just such a better employee experience, just on that alone, not having to do that manual tasks.
Yeah, for sure. So let's flip that. Do you ever have people that come to you that are timid about this because they're afraid this is going to replace their job? They don't have anything to do.
Yes, that comes to probably more on the larger scale organizations. Sometimes we work with, there is sometimes resistance for change, obviously, because this is the way we've been doing it for so long. We call that the junker mentality. This is how we do it. It's the process has been in place for a decade. It works. We have 8 people doing a task that one person could do. So there is some of that job security issue. So what we try to understand is, look, we're not trying to here to replace that person. We need to understand what they do and why they do it that way. Can they do something else for the business? So once you get them to embrace it, obviously it takes a leadership level person to kind of embrace it and then say, this is the way we're going forward. It could result in a staff reduction. That has happened, but it's not what we encourage, obviously. And then on the smaller scale clients, we look at things that they might have like 50 accounts for a financial accounting, like they act as a fractional CFO. By automating their solutions, we're able to now, can they go from 50 accounts to 60 accounts? And it's something that just something simply by changing a process and improvement, all the overall company is going to experience something better. It doesn't replace an employee at all. So yeah, there's 2 sides of it. It just depends. And I think it depends on that person and what they do at the company. There will be resistance depending on if they don't have a real role if the automation comes into play.
Yeah. I could also see it as something like, if you go through this type of transformation and you learn the skills, to automate things, and right. Even if it does result in a staff reduction and you losing your job, you've got this new skill set that you can take somewhere else and, get a higher level position.
Sure. And look, it's something that's not going to happen overnight. So you're working on a solution, even if you're in that position where this could essentially replace you, or if you don't find another job to move into, you said it right, John, the experience you're going to get by being part of that project team that helps implement this, you're going to gain so much knowledge about where the future's going. So it's not going to go backwards. It's just you can't bottle this stuff up. So it's better to embrace it. Don't be afraid of it. It's only something, if you get the experience with it, is going to increase your likelihood to get to your next job, or increase your likelihood to get a promotion at your current company.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And so what words would you say to someone that, is interested in this and they're interested in connecting with you guys, learning more about what they could do to improve business processes at their company? And how could they find you online, connect, learn more about this, and take the next steps?
Sure. I mean, in terms of finding about us, are you talking about like the keywords to search for and things of that nature?
I'm just talking about where they can connect with you online.
Oh, connect with me. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Send you a message, connect with you on LinkedIn. Whatever.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All the good stuff.
Sure. On LinkedIn, my profile is under Andrew Cohen, and formerly of EVOKE, now and Netsurit. Both brands are identified on there. You can also go to our website, www.netsurit.com, and we'll put all this, I'm sure, into the webinar notes, the podcast notes here. And that's just and within the Netsurit website, there's a whole innovation section, digital transformation section, and you'll see my picture all over it. So one thing about this is I'm being highly branded for this innovation team over here. So it's definitely not just the work's important, but my reputation's on the line. So the guarantee that we put out there is very critical to me on a professional level. And so, when you go to the site, please, there's an opportunity to request that free ideation session as well, and it would be booked with me. So it's a good way to reach out. And also, through that, you'll be able to ask questions directly to me or someone from the team, and we'll get right back to you.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And, I feel like, we're at a time where technology is growing so fast that if you're not utilizing these tools for automation and AI and advancement, your company is going to be left behind.
I agree. I mean, it's something that it'll move the needle for you. Like I said, for a small business, gaining 5 new accounts by automating certain processes means, maybe another $2 million of business and revenue over the course of a year. And then in terms of larger organizations, I mean, allow them to utilize these tools, fully leverage that investment. You're talking about a company of like 5,000 plus people, Microsoft licenses using 20%, just to show the user adoption change and how we help measure that for those companies. That's such a major reselling kind of opportunity for them, because they just are leveraging that investment fully. And that's before we even build like a custom solution or, in the Microsoft 365 stack, just telling them how to use it better and show them how the user adoption score is as comparative in the industry. The more they take advantage of these tools, just a more efficient operation they're going to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Andrew, I really appreciate having you on. I feel like we had a good conversation and learned a lot about what's happening in the world of automation and AI and what's coming up next. So thanks so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
No, John, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. Take care.
If you enjoyed that episode, please leave a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. I'd greatly appreciate that. And also, don't forget to check out merch. We have some t-shirts that I've designed that are on at geekleader.com. You can click on the merchandise section there and check that out. And also, don't forget about the books from our guests. So if you like this guest and other guests that have written books, please go ahead and check that out at geekleader.com. I would greatly appreciate it, and I'm sure they would too.